Namaste. Hello. Oh, here.
Namaste. Hello, beloved.
Oh, hello. So nice to see you. Wonderful background there.
You too.
Very nice. I just clicked on your Facebook page there a moment ago, and I think your cover photograph was like Moji's hand, like touching your hand to your heart. And I just felt like that was beautiful.
That was a very special moment. I still remember it. It was in Zimar. And we were all just sitting outside after a meditation, and he came straight and put his hand there.
Yeah.
And actually, it has been so. It has been every single time that I have met him or been in his presence. Some transformation takes place.
Yeah.
Not here, but somewhere.
Yeah, I feel that. It's like we can't really put words to that type of thing because maybe we don't know, but we just know ourselves, like something is happening or shifting or like, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I always
something
say
dissolving. Something dissolving, something melting.
Exactly. Yeah. I experienced that too. I feel like I really don't understand, but I definitely would always encourage anybody to be in the presence of Moji or whoever they feel called to. I think it's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that, these things are not even something we plan or will or can plan or will. It really is, one has heard these things so many times before. When the student is ready, the master appears.
Yeah.
But when it happens to you, when your master actually comes to you, that you realize how divinely orchestrated it is.
Yeah.
In this lifetime, I've had the honor to meet so many masters. I met Osho in my younger days when I didn't really understand the value even of meeting him.
Yeah.
Met Sri Ravi Shankar. I met Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. I met Thich Nhat Hanh. I met so many masters in this lifetime, but somehow I just felt like I don't know whether I will have a living master in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And I began to feel that I'm the one who set parameters, My master should be like this, and my master should exude joy, and my master should. But so I don't deserve one. And then I saw Moji on YouTube, and Amba, love, sweetheart, I had been for a 40-day retreat. It was an Osho retreat down south in India. And when I came out from there, a friend of mine who was with me asked me, she said, do you take this person who conducted this retreat to be your master? And somehow I just, like a no came out of me. I can only say came out of me because we were just out of silence. My brain was not working. Then she said, you wish you had a living master. And then again the word said, if I had a living master, it would be someone like Moji. And then I thought to I listened to the words and I thought, oh, is that what you think? Hey, okay. And then I remember I came and I told a friend of mine, I said, these words came out of me. So don't you think I should make an effort to go and meet this person, this being? I said, yeah, you should go. So I said, but where? So he said, where he comes in Tiruvannamalai, you go there. I said, okay. And maybe a month later, the same person called me back and he said, guess who's coming to Rishikesh? And for someone living in Delhi, it's like Tiruvannamalai is far, but Rishikesh is next door.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. And he said, guess. I said, I don't know. And he said, Moji. And as I was listening, I was holding the phone and I was speaking to him and there were like tears flowing there. And what's happening here? And that's how I met him. That's how, when the first time he came to Rishikesh, on the first day that he had satsang, and actually I met him one day before because we just went to that ashram where he was. And I had a most magical meeting with him.
Just to hear you sharing it, your words and presence, I don't know what is really touching my heart. Like I feel like crying to just to just hear like this.
I mean, it was, those days, Amba, love, sweetheart, there was like not much security. There was like nothing. I mean, we just went in that, and I don't know if you've been to Rishikesh, but if you've been, like how it is now. But we just went to see where would satsang be, and pushed open the gate. And there was a young boy there, and he said, "Yes, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Oh, I've come to meet Moji." And he said, "Does he know you?" And I've never met him before, but like something in my heart said, "Yeah, he knows me." And he said, "Oh, who shall I say has come?" I said, "Tell him Rohini from Delhi." I mean, how cheeky is that? But I just said, "Tell him Rohini from Delhi." And he said, "Okay." And then he said, "But if he's resting, I won't disturb him." I said, "It's a deal." So he went in and he came back and he said, "He's resting." I said, "Okay." And I'm turning back, to leave. And he says, "Don't you want to wait for him?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he brings me a chair, and I like sit down in that, that same place where satsang is held now. I'm sitting outside, and there's two other people with me. And I'm saying to that other person, we've been listening to Moji for like 8 or 9 months now. I think he should come out in 8 or 9 minutes. So whatever I'm sharing with you is very confidential.
Yeah.
Just like sister to sister. And I said 8 or 9 minutes now. And sure enough, I think 7 or 8 minutes later, there he was. And, I just got up, and without, let's say, any inhibition, I just ran to him, and he just hugged me, and I wept like I have never wept before. And then when I stopped weeping a little bit, I said to him, "I have not come to ask you any questions. I've just come to say to you what you said to your master." And he said, "What did I say?" I said, "You said, chop off my head." And it's just what I'm telling you.
I don't know why it's making me cry.
Yeah, it was like, and he
cry
just
with
helped
joy.
me, and in that moment, I just recognized that this exactly is how you meet a master. This exactly, And I just like wept. And then I said, "I just feel like touching your feet." And it was till that moment, I had never felt this feeling of like bowing before someone and like receiving him in your heart. And at the end of that satsang, I just sat down and I wrote a letter. And in the letter, I just wrote that, that first day when I saw you, I just ran to you. Without shame, without inhibition, without asking your permission. And you know what, Moji Baba? I realized that I was not running to a form. I was running to the embodiment of love and freedom. And I understand now that love and freedom is always waiting for you with open arms, as were you, waiting to embrace the child who went away. And I said, so I cannot thank you enough for this meeting of consciousness with consciousness. And Amba, love, just at the end of satsang that week, I just stood in the darshan line, which used to be very short at that time.
Yeah.
And when he passed by, I just gave him the letter and I said, "This is for you, Moji Baba." And it was so complete for me that I was sitting outside, and later somebody told me that, he read your letter and he asked, where's this person? Where is she? But I didn't need to hear anything more. It was just so full and so complete. And yeah, that was my meeting with my master and my journey
That's a
home,
beautiful.
getting a very definite compass.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all on our journeys home. There is no other purpose for being,
I like when you said there, when you met Moji, you weren't meeting a person, but you were just like, I don't know what words you used exactly, but you were just running into the arms of love or something. And you said you are also that. And I feel like that, like we are this home and everything that appears within us, all the seeming problems and seeming troubles. I feel like this is just the way I've been starting to think lately. Like all of those seeming troubles, like they're all returning home to ourself, like our heart, our just life itself.
Yeah. It's so true, it's just depends like what lens are we looking through. Like these same, situations come up, they come up like they're always there for our awakening and healing, but we may not see them as such. At a certain point in life, it may close you down. At a certain point in life, you may understand that, oh yeah, I'm feeling this. So maybe this lesson has come because I need to handle this emotion or that emotion, or, I need to forgive, or I need to. So we've all been in stages where we have felt that way. And then you happen to be brought, grace brings you to that point where the journey itself changes from fixing the person or becoming a better person to dissolving the person. And that's really that, you could say, the last phase or the first phase, whatever you call it, of the journey. And as you begin to and I often, sometimes you in your sangha, you meet somebody who says, oh, I'm not sure that this is the journey for me. Nothing's happening. And I just say to them, do you have a living master holding your hand? Yeah. And if you do, you don't need any more proof. Yeah. You just know that grace has brought you here. And even if you may think that your energy is being wasted, it will never waste the energy of an enlightened being. Yeah. He's here because we are ready. So just, stay put. So now when one looks at something which happens in life, one can only see it as one thing, which is pushing you towards your awakening. Yeah. I had a tough test just now because through these 2 years, 3 years of COVID, I never contracted COVID in this whole time. And my daughter finally, who lives in Canada, said, hey mom, how about coming to visit us now? And so I came. And Amba, love, sweetheart, as soon as I reached here, I tested positive. So now imagine I have landed, I've reached home, and I'm isolated in the basement. I can hear my grandchildren, one of whom I had not met till this point. He was born 1.5 years back. I can hear them playing right above my head, and I cannot reach them. Oh no, that is a test, sorry. So now, if you think of it, you may think like, oh my goodness. But what I think was, hey, Moji Baba, thank you. Because, it was just those pointings of stay here. Because if I had listened to my mind, I would have gone mad. It was 12 days of isolation. I
Mm-hmm.
would have just gone crazy because it was definitely wanting to tell me lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, just take your attention away. So it was 11 days of like really being brought back here.
Yeah.
And coming into instant peace from what could have been instant turmoil.
Yeah.
And then you really begin to understand that grace comes in so many packages.
Yeah. Do you find life
Yeah.
continues to show us like that through stories? Like, so this story
Yeah.
comes or that story can come, and it's just to kind of strengthen, isn't it? To strengthen that there's we never find peace in the mind, and it maybe continues to throw up a story,
Absolutely.
an idea. So these kind of stories, they're actually then we can kind of be grateful because they're growing our roots deeper down into the ground.
Absolutely.
Like that's
Absolutely.
good.
And I mean, this time it was really such a clear, experiential, so the understanding is later, but there is a knowing already inside. But it was so clearly felt and known that you can choose your intrinsic nature, which is peace, or you can choose to hold the mind's hand and go playing in the park.
Yeah.
It's up to you. And you can have instantly, you can be moved back to a place of non-happening.
Yeah.
Or you can like proceed out of your house of being and go and play, and it's fine to play. But you know what? It's better to play when you know where you belong. Because we have just been playing for a long time and we have forgotten that we have home.
Yeah. And I don't know if you'd like to say something about this. This is just what's coming to my mind. Many people that go to satsang with Moji or maybe other teachers as well, they do experience, this is just for lack of better words, these are the words I use, but they do experience and recognize the truth of who they are.
Yeah.
And I think it's not difficult, like, and many people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, when a story arises, they kind of seem to forget. They seem to forget and they seem to get caught up in that. So
Absolutely.
when people talk to me about that, the kind of things that usually come is I usually feel like to just continue to choose your heart over and over and over and over again. And the more you kind of do that, you're kind of, then it starts to just happen by itself in a way. Like you don't really even have to choose so much anymore. It's just here.
Absolutely. 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 I think that's absolutely right. And I think perhaps what we don't always recognize is that it too is a process. Even though we are here, we have always been here, we are home.
Yeah.
But still, it is like saying, like, we went away from home. We went away. And that going away became a habit. It became like almost like a reflex. It became like, that's what we choose, the seduction of the mind, or we feel that is more real than this. That change, that drama, that all of that is more real. So we give attention to it. But now it is slowly withdrawing. And it is like, it is like how an attraction grows. Like, let's say you just met a new person and you feel attracted, but there's no familiarity yet. But then slowly and gradually you begin to love being with that person. And then you realize that I am in love. And then you realize that, oh, I can't think of anything else. Nobody has to remind me to think of him or her. I just am in love. And I think it's that process of, falling in love and realizing that it is yourself and that you have always, but that comes slowly and gradually. And I think really, as you said, what keeps you there is the good feeling. The feeling of being home. Good feeling is not a way to put it, but just the familiarity of, oh yes, and being able to, like breathe a sigh and say like, yeah, I like love being here. I like, and that love is what, the love, the familiarity, the recognition of where you have always been, that slowly begins to wash away the rest. It's not a fight. It's not a fight. In fact, it's all only grace. I don't think we can even choose it. It's like grace brings you to that point. Grace. And when you begin to really understand that, then a lot of the stress and strife of, because even spiritual journeys have a lot of doingness in them at a certain stage. We are doing things. We're like, I'm also one of them who did a lot of workshops, who learned a lot of therapies, who, gained from all those therapies, who felt the benefit of them. But then one day I found myself asking like, hey, am I on another treadmill? I stepped off one treadmill, but what is this, constant need for, and how come people come to workshops and say, oh, I feel whole and complete? So does wholeness go away? Does completeness go away? So what are we doing here? And I think I must have prayed at that point. I had not met Moji Baba, but I think I prayed for 2 years saying, look, if this is my path, I'm so happy here. But some little voice inside, in the midst of this, actually not turmoil, but supreme contentment, is telling me that there's something more. So is there? Show me. And then my whole path shifted, And when you come onto this final path, so to say, final path that where you've always been, I mean, isn't it so relieving to be able to talk this cookie language with someone and to know they understand perfectly? It's like, and to like, and then there's a knowingness that keeps you there. There's a knowingness and recognition of the truth, a resonance. And when you say the word resonance, obviously it implies two things. Something inside knows something that is being presented to you. And there's a big restfulness and settling. And yet it's a process. The other day, Moji Baba described it very beautifully to someone, because he was speaking of that water drop, that falls into the bucket, but it hops right back out. And then it goes back in and it dissolves some more and it hops right back out. Until it fully dissolves. So I think that sometimes we get confused, because the master is saying like, you are here, like, and then you find yourself again being attracted to those things that attracted you before.
I think many people get confused like this because of course, when we recognize our true self, you recognize that it's none of the story that's in the world, not even the one that's seemingly waking up to this. Like that's not it. So then we kind of can get confused between where does this life story fit in, even the story of awakening and all, and whatever else is in that like human journey story. And I think sometimes people can just kind of dismiss it altogether and look only towards self-recognition and completely neglect the life. And that means, or it might mean, it might mean like bad behavior and all of this kind of thing. So I guess that's really a big part of the exploration through these podcasts, and kind of what I like to hear different people talking about is that, like, I feel like it's really very important to somehow be very inclusive of the whole of the human. So even though we know, like, through self-recognition, we get to see that this human is not what we thought it was, and it's not, we're not one individual, but yet somehow the play still continues. And I just feel like it's so important to not abandon any part of the human story. But I feel like it's just the way I think about it and talk about it, is like to bring our light from that recognition into all the parts of our life, and just how important it is to include everything. And I don't even know why it's important. If someone said why is it important, I don't know why. It just feels important, and I've always been, you used the word as well, whole. Like someone comes to a workshop and they feel whole and complete, but is that whole and completeness not there all the time? So it's kind of like, yeah, it is like we are whole and complete all the time. But then there's a kind of but yet there's this part of us that's also whole and complete. I think this is also whole and complete, but somehow I think it wants to be allowed. I don't know if it wants, but maybe you can say whatever arises in you, but maybe it wants to just to be allowed. Like, so there's no resistance to that at all. So it's kind of fully, fully, fully included and embraced within the wholeness. And I don't think even in this, I'm putting it over here as if it's somewhere else, but even in the human story, I don't think that's becoming whole. I think like it's important to recognize even when we seem broken, like, like maybe like someone is feeling very upset about something that happened or something, but that doesn't mean anything. Like that doesn't mean that it's not whole. Like that's wholeness expressing as upset or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just feel like it's important to bring attention to all of that. Like,
oh yes, I mean, I love the metaphor of the ocean and the waves. And let's say there's a storm, and let's say that the movement, at the top of the ocean, the waves are like rough and there's like a lot of movement. But if you went to the depths of the ocean, you would find stillness. And you would find it simultaneously. It's not that you have to wait for the storm to end to find stillness. The stillness, in fact, is always there, always steady, or that non-happening place. And there's movement. So you can choose to understand that, the movement is the only thing there is. Then I think we have many lifetimes, and in this lifetime, certainly we know that there have been times when we have been caught in that movement and trying to control that movement. And now when you stand back and you look at it and you think, controlling the movement of the waves? Like how? Like what? What did you think? But you have spent so much energy on that. And yet you can let it be as it is, which was a very liberating moment for me. Because it was like, let it be. Let the storm be. You just go down to the stillness because it's there too. And that is not changing. Be there. Pray for grace to help you recognize that that is where I want to be. So that's like, I mean, it's a very beautiful metaphor, which is very inclusive, because the wave is part of the ocean. But the wave perhaps thinks it's only a wave. But when you begin to realize that all these elements are there, and yes, is the wave important? Yes, I think in the human journey, it is indeed important, because wholeness, however it is, it's a very divine game. But to recognize wholeness, you need to be separate. You need to experience separation, and in the separation, come back to wholeness. Like, let's say you finish with this lifetime and you go back to where you came from, which is wholeness. So how come, like, I mean, why then do we forget? But we forget. And that's the worth of the body. It gives you the separation and the contraction and the experiencing that helps you transcend experiencing. And then include experiencing. Like, I think it's like completely joyous. It's completely joyous to experience, but knowing your true place. Understanding that you are not the experiencing alone. And yet there is a dynamic existence. You have a dynamic existence. And it's fine to let the dynamic existence also flow. But it's not your problem, because there's a script. There's a script. Let the script unfold exactly how it's unfolding. But if you are not like involved in it as it, then it's very joyous to watch. It's like really like, sometimes you have to marvel at the, what shall I say, at the miraculousness and the benevolence and the customization, let's say, of each life plan.
Yeah.
Built specifically for that being.
Somehow when you're talking as well, it's like, I'm probably just going to say the exact same as you in a different way, but it's like experiencing can be there, but in a detached way. But somehow when we're detached from the control and I don't know, not really caring. I have to find a different word for caring, but I'll just say caring for now. Caring about the experience too much, like it matters so much. So it's almost like we kind of let go of needing experience to be a certain way. But then there's a great experience then of ourselves. Like we're actually experiencing ourselves. And I think that's what we really want, when we, even though it's a very paradoxical thing to say, I think, because it's like, I think when we really have that prayer in our heart, like you said, you prayed for like 2 years for a master, like what do we really want? Because you've probably heard so many times through all those really great teachers that you met, like the truth of who you are is beyond this world and all of that. And it doesn't mean anything if we're not experiencing it. So it's some type of, it's an experience. It's a very real experience. And that's what we want. And I feel like or at least maybe it's just where I am in my seeming journey, is that it seems to be like an ongoing thing. So even though there can be great clarity, in the heart about like, I'm not a person, I'm not the stories of the mind, the experiencing can continue to deepen and deepen, like the experiencing of your true self, because, well, the thing is that that's also a way of thinking, because you're always experiencing your true self, but maybe just like that's the whole thing. Actually, there's nothing else to experience. We're always experiencing our true self. So we're just kind of, the only thing is really coming out of the mind. That's the only thing, isn't it?
It's like, it is the plan of consciousness to recognize itself fully.
Yeah.
This whole dynamic existence is also, it's just consciousness playing out things in a certain way. It's also consciousness.
Yeah.
But there's a dynamic aspect to it, and it's playing this out. And my firmest belief is that everything is in our favor, in the favor of awakening. Our favor means going back home, or recognizing that we never left. Whatever, the words are always not very accurate, but it's also consciousness. It's a play of consciousness. It's not really, and that's why I love the metaphor of the ocean, because there's no separation there. There's a seeming separation. That is, if the wave was to get up and speak to you and say, I'm a wave.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
But otherwise, where's the separation? There's movement, and that's the dynamic, and there's stillness, and that's the non-happening, the eternal place. But it's all one. It's the same ocean. It's the same consciousness. It's the same awareness, call it whatever, which sometimes forms itself into movement, let's say.
Yeah.
Forms itself into the dynamic, and then rests again, and then forms again, and then rests again.
Yeah.
And you can say, oh, yes, it's because of the moon, it's because of tides, it's because of the sun, it's because, yes, there are some external things which play and make you move. But do you ever not be the ocean? No. And who thinks that you aren't? Only that wave which might think that, oh, I'm a wave, I'm the best one there is here. I'm the biggest. But only that. But somebody watching it will not think, oh, that's a wave separate from the ocean.
Yeah.
It's not, because it isn't.
I have a question for you, and the question is really, I don't really know where it's coming from, but like I do talk to different people, and kind of about, you said that you met a lot of different teachers and you were feeling quite whole and content, but then there was still a prayer for a teacher. So just specifically, I'm thinking of someone that I was talking to the other day, and they said that they don't really consider anyone their teacher, but like I got the sense that they at least had some recognition of what satsang teachers, let's say, point to. So I don't know what the question is, but maybe the question is something like, what do you feel meeting your teacher, what added kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, thing, I can't find the word, but what added thing can having a teacher kind of support us in or something? What, I don't know.
So it's not really better or worse or anything like that. It's like there is already, grace has already laid out, let's say, the path. There may be somebody, and I was one of those people who felt for the longest time that, yeah, I think the teacher is within. I mean, I've met so many, but I have not really felt like this is my master. And that may be big arrogance on my part to say, but that's how it felt. And it was fine. And I was coming to the conclusion that, like, yes, I mean, life is a teacher, life is the guru, my, inner is the teacher. And it was just fine. It felt just fine like that too. But then this path opened up and a master appeared, I mean, in whose arms I felt myself crying, and I felt like the need to put my head down at his feet and say, I put my head at your feet. It was not really an act of will. You know what I mean? It was just, it's an urge. It's an urge which moves through you. It's like actually your mind at that time is nowhere, because it's not deciding, judging, nothing. It's just only your heart meeting another heart. And yes, when you do have, if that is the path that is destined for you to have a living master, it feels like, I mean, like the word guru is very representative. It's dispeller of darkness. So it's like, I would say that for one thing, you feel, okay, you have somebody who's pointing you, somebody who's holding the compass for you and saying this way. And if you are trusting, like how liberating it is, because I'm a teacher to many. I'm a teacher to many. So I feel like the immense liberation of like sitting at someone's feet and saying like, I don't need to think here, because I have a master who's telling me, go this way. So that's one thing. One is pointing. One is like a feeling of being protected. Like, and what I would say is, you have somebody who will whack you if you're going the wrong way, Like for me, my master is also someone who will, because, on this path, you can really stray because of arrogance. I mean, the ego is such a, I mean, we can say, yes, I mean, nothing like the ego really exists, but the ego and the mind can play havoc with you. They can bring up arrogance. They can bring up like, things which can distract you from your path. They can be a fall from grace. And for me, I feel a master won't allow this to happen to you. Like once you have, taken someone as your master, you have given that stick to him. Is like, use it when you need it, because for me, this life is dedicated to freedom. Please, master, don't let me ever forget this. So, it is,
I like this.
So many things.
I like this. It's like, it feels very true like that. And I feel like that about, like, Moji's also my master, but really also like Ananta, you probably know him.
Yes,
a disciple of Moji. And just like that, when you say that, like, there's no chance that you can really go back to the mind, because that he's there for you. Like, that he's not going to let you go back. And it is
Exactly.
like that. Like there's always a chance. Like, and we see it happening. Like, even just I've been in, let's say, the Sangha for I don't know how long, maybe 8 years or something. But you can see like Sangha friends come and go,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
come and go, and maybe they're so full of love for a few years, and then just the ego comes back in strongly, and
Exactly.
so it's possible.
Exactly. So, that, like, I mean, it is, it's the responsibility of a teacher.
Yeah,
And it's like it feels like such a honor to be able to like put your head down and to like just, relinquish this responsibility to someone who's ready to take it. And
yeah.
that's a master, that's a guru,
Mm.
that's a guru who can, who can, it's like signing a contract. It's like signing a contract that like, okay, this life dedicated to freedom.
Mm.
You need someone to witness it and
Yeah.
say, okay, I'm going to hold you to this. You
Mm.
aren't going anywhere. And like, if that be the case, like, I mean, what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift, till we, till we need that supervision, so to say, or till we need that holding of space, to have someone who can hold that space for you is just,
Yeah.
it's an incomparable blessing, I would say. Incomparable.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good choice of words. And I just want to reflect back and affirm, just for anybody who might be listening that doesn't have a teacher, that like what you said at the beginning, that it's neither better nor worse. And maybe all of us have a different story and a different path, for different reasons. So just because we haven't taken or accepted or acknowledged or noticed, I don't know, someone as our teacher, it doesn't mean that we can't live completely free.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to say that, because I know some people, maybe more, especially in the West, we can get kind of confused, like because we maybe know lots of different spiritual teachers and maybe we think they're great and we trust them somewhat, but like still, if someone says, "Are they your teacher?" you'd be like,
Yeah.
"No, I don't have a teacher."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only thing actually to recognize is that grace is here.
Yes.
Grace is upon us, and it brings to each one exactly what is needed by that one.
Yes.
The goal is the same. There is no race. There is no rush. There is no urgency. We
Yeah.
are all going the same way.
Yeah.
But there are many ways to the top of the mountain. Somebody may be holding your hand, somebody may not, somebody may hold it for some time, they may let go, but all of it is in your favor. And all of it is only for one purpose.
Yeah.
Everything, whether it is that now you're experiencing, whether it is that you so-called feel, I fell off the path, whatever is happening to eventually just bring you home. And
Yeah.
it's going to happen in its own time, already decided perhaps.
Mm.
So one can really, really relax, rest.
Yeah.
Like whichever way it is happening is what is meant to be.
Yes.
And it's perfect. Not only meant to be, but perfect for that being.
Yes. It's really very beautiful to talk to you. I asked Moji to join me on this podcast recently.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him directly. I asked him through someone
Yeah.
else and someone else. But the
Yeah.
answer came back no.
Yeah.
And I just kind of trust, as well, whatever
Yeah.
happens is right. But I kind of see, even, or I have the sense, like talking to you, I feel like if I was talking to Moji, I probably wouldn't be able to talk,
Yeah.
which would probably be okay as well, because you
Yeah.
can just hear him talking. But like, I think I would just be like crying the whole time, because
Yeah.
even hearing your heart connection with Moji is just like making me cry, cry, cry.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I can remember that when I first went to satsang, and I first met Muji Baba. And I remember I said to him, I would like a one-on-one with you. I whispered in his ear, I would like a one-on-one with you. And I mean, I was in satsang. I was so sure that, like, tomorrow he's going to call me. I mean, just responding to what you said just now. And every day I would wait, like now they'll come and they'll tell me. And what did I want to say to him in that one-on-one? I really can't recall. But 5 days passed and no call. And then I saw Shri coming towards me. And I thought, yay, now she's coming to tell me when I'm going to meet him. And she came to me and she said, I have a message for you from Moji Baba. He says, don't be in waiting mode. Every word that he says in satsang is for you. Listen to him because he's speaking to you. And was there disappointment? Yeah, the person felt, oh my goodness, so he's not going to meet me one-on-one. What does this message mean? But wow, I have quoted this message and told it to so many people whom I am sure it has helped. It's like, why are you asking for this one-on-one? Why sit in satsang and be fully alive and listen to every word because he's speaking to you? And just as you said, like, maybe he said no to this, but some other way will come and his words are anyway, reaching you. They're in your heart, they're coming out from your mouth. They're like, it's all so perfect. And I mean, just the way, I won't extend it by like, telling you more stories, but just the way it happened was when the time was right, I had that one-on-one with him and it was most beautiful, most significant, and it came at the right moment.
Yeah.
As everything does.
Yeah. And here it's also like there's something, I suppose, that wants to not see Moji also as different, but to see Moji's heart in everybody.
Oh, yes.
And that's very apparent, like talking to you. It might be more apparent talking, like it's easier to see it in some people than others. But that's what, like, really what I want. So, so just this kind of conversation is just kind of affirming that. But also, I think we kind of mentioned it already, but I'm just saying it now because it's in my mind. I usually just say whatever appears in my mind. So one of the things I wanted to say to Moji, if I was going to say something to him, was to ask him to say something about, which we kind of did a little bit already, but about spiritual ego. Because now, of course, if you're experiencing a spiritual ego, you're not going to recognize it. And that's the whole nature of it. And maybe spiritual ego is, I think it can be probably many things, but like you think or you think you've realized, and like, I'm awake now, all this kind of thing. And I know there's a song, don't know if I'll think of it right now, but there's a song that Moji Sangha sing, or they used to sing in Satsang to Moji. And someone was explaining it at the start and they mentioned something about spirit. This is about our spiritual ego. And they were laughing. And he said, oh yeah, that goes on a very long time. And everyone was laughing. But like, I don't think he was joking, and Moji is one example. There's plenty of great teachers in the world as well. But Moji, let's say, has thousands of people following him. And I also believe that many, 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 many of us are like really kind of waking up and awake and living from our heart. But I feel like there's probably also a lot of spiritual ego. And I think it can come up in anyone at any time. And maybe sometimes it just comes for, like, I've certainly seen spiritual ego in myself. And maybe sometimes I think you don't really see it until it's gone. As soon as you see it, then it's gone. But I wonder if you would have anything to say, maybe to help us to be open to seeing spiritual ego in ourselves, or
well, I think the words that you've used are like very indicative. Firstly is to be open and to remain humble and to actually never forget what is the final goal. If your goal is freedom, which you are also equating with dissolving the self, dissolving the small self, dissolving the ego, then this is one of the ways in which it rears its head. It's like, yeah, I know, now I'm like losing my humility, but then what is actually happening is that knowledge is strengthening the ego. It's not dissolving the ego. It's not melting. It's actually adding another portfolio to it. And that actually, I would say, is one of the real blessings of having a guru, is somehow remaining in the position of my head is at your feet.
Yeah.
Because it's when we like, yeah, we may, I mean, I've often talked to Moji Baba also about this. It's like when we first start, we are like, let's say we are racked by the mind. We are troubled. We are dominated by it. We do not separate ourselves from it. And then comes a moment when, oh yeah, I can recognize the mind. I can flick my attention away from it. I feel like quite a good, well-managed person. But it's still person.
Yeah.
However, that person is like almost my idea of enlightenment as a person. It's like when I was troubled by my present, I was troubled by my future, I was troubled by thoughts, I was troubled by circumstances. All I wanted was to reach this place where I don't mind the mind, let's say.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of saying I don't mind. And I don't mind, what circumstances are happening around me. I'm fine with almost everything. It feels very enlightened. But here there is still person lurking.
Yeah.
Here is where spiritual ego can come up. And here is where we become comfortable enough in the dynamic existence to forget that the goal is dissolving the person, not just becoming a well-managed person.
Yeah.
And this is where you need, again, I would say, like, if you have the protection and guidance of a master, they can recognize this. They won't let you rest on this plateau.
Yeah.
They'll push you because they can see, oh yeah, she's doing well, she's doing well. Like many people will use the word, oh, I'm in flow. I'm fine. But have you forgotten that the goal was not just to be a person who's flowing? The goal, ultimate goal, is to let the person go. To let the person fully dissolve. And for this, I feel like Sangha, like a live Sangha, a vigilant master, keeps you from forgetting. Because otherwise, in a way, this spiritual ego which comes up at this point is a fall from grace.
Yeah.
It's not that grace abandons you, it will bring you back. But it can be a distraction. So I feel like this part is like something which, if you do have a master and he is watching over you, you can be saved this unnecessary chai shop.
Yeah.
And yet, like a master being, they are sages and they know that sometimes somebody needs to go to that chai shop. They need to experience this fall from grace. They need to maybe even be battered again by this ego which is coming up. And they need to recognize it themselves and come back and put their head back at, because so it's all part of the journey. And at every point we are given this, choice: expand, contract, love, fear, person, self. So you choose till you don't need to choose. Every time you choose and you recognize this choice in your heart, then it's not difficult later. You don't need to even choose.
And one thing I wanted to say, just, I don't know why, you say that you choose until you don't need to choose.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can think like that it's better to not need to choose than to choose. But I just want to say, well, I'm really just saying what I feel, so you can say, but I don't feel like one is even better than the other. So if you choose to be in your heart or you're in your heart without choosing, one is not better than the other. It's okay. Because sometimes I think it's just to kind of dispel that idea that like if I still need to choose all the time, because I'm faced with this story, like the way you said you're faced with this story. So if you have to choose, or if it just happens, you're just naturally remain in the heart. It's like sometimes we can kind of get that idea. I think if I still need to choose, then what? I don't know what the idea would be. Just then I'm not really awake or something, or I don't know what the idea would be, but just
Well,
like
that also the one who thinks that they are not awake is the one who thinks that.
thinking something. I knew the words
So
when I
it's
said
like,
it.
Actually, all words are a little inaccurate.
Yeah.
All words are a little inaccurate, but the words are just there as maybe an aid to somebody who's on the journey and who might recognize it and who might feel it in their own heart in their own way. But there's a truth maybe hidden behind the words, which you catch, and you catch it only when you are there. When you recognize it within, then those words, it's like sometimes you read a book and when you reread it, you think, oh, did I read this?
Yeah, pick up different things.
And you didn't catch it even. So you catch it when you catch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your love of truth and your love of Moji Baba and sharing your connection with him. And that's really, really, really what I really want to share through this podcast. It's really not about words. It's really that, there's not really, I don't know if there is a way to share it, but that's really, I think that's what wants to happen, is to share that love. And like you say, it's the connection, our connection. So even if it's the connection inwards, like to our heart, or the connection to a guru or a teacher, or just even the connection to someone you love, just connection. That love is, I don't know, I certainly feel it hearing you speaking. So I hope that can come across to anyone who might be listening.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much.
Let's just send our love to everyone who's listening, and just a gentle prayer for them that they too may find and fulfill whatever is their purpose for this lifetime.
Yes.
And may they find all the guides, teachers, mentors that they need and that are perfect for them. It was so wonderful to be with you. I mean, it just felt like we've always known each other as we have.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So much love.
Love you so much. So much love.
Love you so much. Thank you. Okay. Bye, Rohini.
Bye, Amba. Love, beloved.
Bye.